All right, guys, so I'm here with Tina Hurley. She is the reason I'm here in Boston. She is the founder. Any other titles you really go, or we just go with founder?
Founder, CEO.
All of it. Of Less Leg, More Heart. They reached out to me not too long ago, and to say that we just kind of hit it off right away is kind of putting it lightly. It's been an awesome fit, and I wanted to explain what we're getting done, explain why I'm so excited about this, and I don't know who can speak to the mission better than the mission creator. So, Tina, you want to start with a little bit of background with you, and then the start of the organization?
Yeah, I'm an amputee, clearly, and I was an amputating clinician. I'm a physician assistant, nationally certified. I have an undergraduate degree in exercise physiology, and then I worked in hospital medicine for nearly a decade in acute care medicine as a hospitalist, and then transitioned into vascular surgery and wound care, where I was the first assistant in the OR taking limbs off for a living when I actually got my diagnosis of vascular disorder. It's called popliteal artery entrapment syndrome, and failed more than a dozen surgeries, and eventually had to have my limb amputated almost 7 years ago. And being a patient was one of the most educational experiences about the deficits in the quality of care for people that are transitioning into disability. The white coats, our hands are tied by FDA regulation, and there's only so much that can be done. And as a clinician, I was having to write non-compliance in all of my charts because, not all of them, we had good compliance on the things that we could manage, but there was a lot of people that had social, financial, economic, psychologic barriers to their ability to live their best life. And so through my healing in the first couple of years, which was quite a journey, I developed a couple of pillars to be able to fill some holes in the healthcare continuum. And those things are advocacy, mentorship, funding for holistic care, and funding for home services during transition, which is all intentfully vague. And we have now established ourselves as a federally tax-exempt organization since 2019, so 5 years. And we've served amputees in 26 states, probably more. We haven't done our metrics this year. And we basically help to customize the things that we give to amputees in order to provide them with what they need when we meet them through a very comprehensive intake, and then also at 1, 3, 6, and 12 months the first year, and every 6 months after that. So we really do have a thorough approach. We try to complement the medical system, complement the resources they already have, direct them to other resources in the community, other nonprofits or other for-profits or other federal programs, to make as much use of the donor funds that are relative to the things that they need while honoring our mission and the donor funds to what we do. So a lot of work and definitely a very expansive scope, but because of the several dozens of volunteers that we have through the organization, we're able to pull it off, and we have some great technology and workflow management softwares. We're always looking for people to help us, whether it's on the business side or the beneficiary relations side, but that's kind of why it started. Was I don't want people to suffer through things like I did when there's tools, and there's now a system through Less Leg, More Heart to help kind of shine some light on places they may be a little bit dark and fuzzy on.
Cool. How long ago did this start?
We started it in 2019, so we're 5 years old.
Oh, dang. Okay. It's a lot. It's a lot to get done in that time. Yeah. There's two things that super stick out to me. One, I really like the part that your goal and idea is to complement the medical system. It's really easy to get frustrated, and I find a lot of people that have this mission to help, they kind of have it as a little bit of their mission a little bit involves a middle finger to the medical system. I like the idea, the fact that it's let's complement, let's fill gaps, because you understand that they can do what they can do, and I think that's really important because negativity is negativity no matter what it is. Even if it is negativity towards somebody that did a negative thing, it doesn't help anyone. And it definitely doesn't help in a scenario like this. And then the other piece of it that was really interesting is your language was intentionally vague, or is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Intentionally vague. And I like that because the other piece of the puzzle is what I've experienced is some of these that have contacted me is they want me because they want to push a specific thing. And this, and it gets treated as an end all be all, or it gets presented like that. And the reality is it's incredibly complex. The same response can come from a million different directions. And I like the flexibility. Did you start with that? Was that a big goal from the very beginning? Was we're not just going to provide one service, it's not just going to be horseback riding, or it's not just going to be CrossFit, or it's not just going to be, was that a from the beginning thing, or is that something that you just realized early on?
Yeah, so I'll speak to the first point first. The system's broken. I'm a clinician still, I'm nationally certified still. I could get a job anytime still, but there's so much provider burnout and there's so much moral injury with our clinicians right now because they kind of are middlemen, where they used to have more autonomy with the decision making and the direction of care for their patients. The administrative governance and the insurance governance is really binding some of our clinicians, and it's pigeonholing the options that they have to give to people. And so they're just kind of in the middle of a larger system issue. And it needs to start with insurances. There's crowdfunding health insurances that are being discovered, and there's other ways of funding. So there's some hope on the horizon, but I have been treated poorly. I have had negative outcomes due to medical error. I have been and witnessed terrible things at the hands of people making bad decisions or treating patients unfairly. So I definitely have a place in my heart that feels angry, that like everybody would, for the people that are around me, like yourself, that had circumstances. But
anger's a really tough one to get.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of latched onto that, because anger was a big challenge for me. There was a part of me that was just prone or sensitive to or easy to get angry because I was dealing with. But it came to a point where it legitimately felt like a malicious attack.
Yeah. Not only was your fuse short, but also you were in a really unfair circumstance. And I think that those two things together are really hard. But the answer for people that are trying to solve problems, which patients can't do in the thick of it, you don't have the reserve to do it. Folks like myself, the way to change the problem when you don't have the political access to change the systems is to fill the holes. And so we had to be intentfully vague.
And change.
Yeah, we had to be wide enough that we could pick from, what we wanted to fill the needs of somebody. If I said, I only want to treat mental health for people with disabilities, but then they came across my desk and they had all of these other things that I knew that I could help with or direct them toward, it would be a missed capture. And the person that has the hardship with that is the person that needs the help. Because when I was recovering and I was trying to find resources, not only is it a ton of energy to look for them, but it also is a lot of work to go through the applications, to meet with the teams, to submit things when grants open. If you're trying to do that to 12 different places in 1 year because each one does a different thing, it's just tiring as the person that has very little energy. So Less Like More Heart is I hate to say the gimmicky one-stop shop, but you can give us all of your information and it's very thorough, and then we can help to say, here are the back end things. I know the CEO's numbers to the organizations that are going to help you. Let us try to warm lead you into this rather than starting from scratch.
Let's help you be more efficient with the little time you've got.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I remember feeling that a lot. After my surgery, it's just everyone's oh, do this, do that, do this, and I'm like, guys, I am just trying to figure out how to put a shoe on this foot.
Or just get through your day without having anxiety about all of the things that could go wrong and that have gone wrong with your life. And when you're in chronic pain, and you and I had talked about this, it wears at the existence of your being, and it wears at the energy that you have and your vitality. And it's hard to do anything, even get through the day, let alone be your own advocate. And we help to be that because you just sometimes need a springboard in the beginning. Right,
and it's just way better than the alternative, which is told, suck it up.
Or suffer in silence, right?
That's just it. That is not helpful. That is just honestly, it's a projection of insecurity. Suck it up. It's not okay. It's your job, sort of deal. And it's most people get help at their job.
I think our goal as an overarching nonprofit system in the country is to promote autonomy, to promote independence, to promote the notion of self-acceptance, and also through those confidence builders, promote that notion to the able-bodied community so that people aren't getting kudos and pats on the back when they're just grocery shopping.
Right.
Those kinds of things, right? The start of the societal change and perspective starts with the competency as a whole of the disabled community, and that's through resource sharing and through advocate groups.
Agree. It's not about asking for a lower bar. It's about helping people get up too.
That's right.
It's two very different things.
Yeah.
So no, that's a big deal to me. Or I personally think that's what moves the needle forward as a whole is that sort of mentality and mindset. Mm-hmm. So we're obviously gonna get to the running blades next. What are just some other examples of maybe less conventional things you guys have been able to provide that the return for the amputee has just been huge?
home modification projects. We just finished up a $60,000 project in Massachusetts where an amputee that's a bariatric patient, wheelchair bound, like meaning wheelchair dependent, he wasn't able to ambulate successfully or safely on crutches and didn't have a prosthetic because he was just amputated, neuropathy in his other leg, so huge fall risk, had 5 or 6 sort of rickety steps to his home, was left by the ambulance in his house where he couldn't get in or out in the case of emergency. It was 2 days before Thanksgiving. He had no food in the fridge. He couldn't get his bariatric wheelchair through the doors to his bedroom or his bathroom. His bathroom wasn't wide enough or ADA accessible at all, so he couldn't clean himself. He couldn't really eat. His laundry was downstairs, which was not able to get down to. So we worked with a bunch of community partners. We were able to build him an ADA ramp, widen his doorways, put a first floor washer and dryer in, completely re-outfit his bathroom so that he can live safely and autonomously.
I'm gonna be honest, this is a much bigger scale than I expected an answer for.
I mean, we do funding for house cleaning services for the first few months, home meal delivery services catered to people's intolerances and allergies. Anything that we can do to fund the doing in the home so that the person can really be safe and deal with getting to a place of acceptance so they can be a beacon of hope sooner for other people is where we fill holes in. And then of course, funding for additional therapy. So gym memberships, supplementation, extra PT sessions, because some bureaucrat said you only get 20 sessions per year or something silly.
Well, it's just based on the situation, right?
Yeah, I mean, we just...
that number is not arbitrary at all.
We've done adaptive modifications to like bicycles and archery equipment that people didn't get grants for through other programs because that brought them joy. We got somebody an ATV once because they used to be avid outdoorsmen and they weren't able to experience the thing that brought them joy and identity. I mean, when you lose a limb, you lose part of who you are, and you take a while to figure out who you are when you're unable to do the things that you did before to identify. And so how can we get people returning to the things that they did where they feel a bit like themselves in a different capacity but safely? And we would love to fund those things.
That's awesome.
All of our money is triage. So, you know, our dollars go toward the more acute things. Like we not only do a customized assessment and allocation of award to people when they come in, but we also put an emphasis on those awards toward the more acute side. So if I have a preoperative person or I have a perioperative person where they're just getting out of the rehab or they're still in the rehab getting ready for discharge, those people are priorities because those are very significant points in the journey where we can minimize negative outcomes and really mitigate risk for them. Whereas if someone's already been home for 3-4 months exposed to the circumstances that they've been exposed to, the risk is a little bit lower than that new amputee. So we kind of take everything that's in our queue and we govern what timing we do things in order to make it make the most sense for our population.
Yeah, I mean, it's power of perspective, right?
Yeah.
But like all the things and rules and that are put out there that we're working to complement weren't really built with any perspective of the actual scenario. It was what somebody thinks of the scenario, and so that is. To me, it's the only way to actually make changes is to understand perspective. You can't really count on a whole lot. So we're going to get one more thing as this water is getting real close. I want you to explain how I ended up with this yesterday. Explain that process and then explain how that all works.
Yeah, so a few months ago, I connected with the CEO of Levitate, Lasse, from Denmark. And we had decided to partner so that one of the many things that Lesleg does would be helping to fund these very affordable direct-to-consumer running blades for people that are either having a hard time getting funding, have been waiting a long time, or don't have the resources to do it. And so we set up peer-to-peer fundraising through an online platform so that we could encourage the community of able bodies and amputees to participate in the fundraising, and once each of them raised the $2,000 for the blade, they would be able to actually be part of the giving, which is really like heartwarming. So Anthony Capoletti, who's an incredible amputee from down in New York, he was like one of the first guys to jump on. He's a big collaborator with Levitate, and he raised the money the fastest. So the first running blade that Lesleg Morehart has sponsored through this new partnership was going to go to somebody for the Boston Freedom Tour. They're coming here tomorrow, and they're going to be running a tour where a bunch of amputees come and try their blades out and talk to one another and share resources. And then our organization is aiming to try to give more and more blades away at each time through the recruitment of more peer-to-peer fundraisers. We had seen your content because we had mutually...
I was the first one?
So yeah, so I had seen your content through another organization, and you had been part of a media thing for that. and I had seen your profile, and I'm also a wellness junkie and a CrossFitter and all these things, and I really liked what you were putting out. And so then when it came time to recruit more peer-to-peer fundraisers, I wanted you to on board, and you jumped at the opportunity once we got on a call, and there was a lot of synergy and a lot of like,
it was obvious.
Yeah, so I, on the back end, talked to the team and put you on the radar of the team in terms of possible recipient, and we ran through some candidates, and Anthony, who was the one that raised the money, said, I think he's going to help the most people once he gets one, and so I think that he needs to get one first.
That's awesome. I didn't even know that about that.
You're the first one.
Yep. So to kind of bring this thing to a close.
And my whole family are veterans, and it's a very, very dear thing to my heart. And
I appreciate it. Yeah. No, it was awesome. It was really, really fun getting to roll with your brother the other day. So to kind of bring this guy to a close, so as you heard, I got to be a recipient of this running blade through the donor link. In the description, you're going to see that I now also have a donor link, and my goal is to get to post a video of giving an amputee one of these.
Or several.
Yeah, we can do more than one. I would love to do more. I would love to do as many as possible. But so that is. So in the description, you're going to find a link for this. If this is like, man, this sounds like a good use of my time, my resources. You want to play a small part in this, or a huge part in this. You can play a huge part. That's cool too. That'll be in the bottom in the description. And
donate and share.
Yes,
right?
if you could share that link, if you know anybody else that's interested in this, like, there's a lot of ways to kind of figure yourself out. But there just seems to be something consistent about the physical side of this. And even if your goal isn't necessarily to go run a marathon, getting to challenge yourself in a more physical way just seems to be a very effective way to check a lot of boxes that many with disabilities struggle. So the idea of getting to create accessibility around this is a lot more than just going for a run. It bleeds into the rest of their life in such a positive way.
To change someone's mobility for the better literally changes their whole life and their children's life and their community's life and their ability to show up in the world as a better version of themselves to do better good for everybody else. It's just a blade, but it's actually like a lot more than that.
Yes, so if you've got any other questions, please let me know. If you're interested in Less Leg, More Heart, check them out. A link to their website and their resources will be in the bottom. And if you know an amputee that needs some help, reach out. Thanks, guys.